This video is sponsored by Last Flag. Stay tuned for more.
Mission begins in 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Nice hustle, tons of fun. Next time, eat a salad. Oi, you can be gravy, fatso. This American boot just kicked your ass back to Russia.
Play ball! Has this happened to you before? If you've tried playing heavy, chances are it has. And if it hasn't, then I think you're lying. Contrary to popular belief, playing heavy isn't quite the walk in the park people make it out to be. Learning the ropes can be genuinely challenging, and even experienced heavies will often find themselves getting tossed around like a hacky sack, discarded like tissue paper, and bullied like the classmate who talks about Undertale a little too much. Yet despite this, there's shockingly few resources for actually playing heavy effectively. That's why I've made this short, sweet, and simple guide to playing heavy. It doesn't matter if you're an aspiring heavy main or a grizzled veteran. There's information in this guide that will be beneficial for players across every level of play. I can also 100% guarantee you will learn something new during this video that you didn't know going in. In fact, I am so confident in that claim that if you don't learn anything from this video, I will chop one of my hands off. You heard me right. I will take a big cleaver and I will chop one of my hands off. Is that something that you really want? But I can tell you something you do want. Do you like video games with capture the flag, fortresses to defend, and iconic characters with interesting abilities? You do? Oh my gosh, we have so much in common. Well, you're in luck, my friend, thanks to Last Flag. It's a brand new capture the flag game, and when I say brand new, I mean it. It launches today on Steam. Hide your flag, defend it from enemies, as well as capture posts to give your team the advantage. I had the pleasure of playtesting the game with my friends, and we all came away with the experience of having a really good time. I especially got a sick sense of enjoyment out of emoting on every single person I eliminated. There's 9 characters so far, with a 10th on the way this summer, so there's a little something for everyone to try out. I particularly enjoyed playing Scout. This guy, I don't mean to toot my own horn or anything, but I'm a bit of a crack shot with the rifle. I will eliminate you, and I will dance on your body. The team fights are engaging, the abilities are chaotic and fun, and the back and forth engagements throughout the match make for a dynamic experience that doesn't get dull. The end of the match skirmishes to defend the flag also make for some of the most fun encounters I've had in a PvP game in years. So I highly recommend giving it a shot. I can bet it's up your alley. The game goes live today, and for a week it's going to be on a 20% sale, so scoop it up while you can. It's a hoot and a holler. If you're fast, you can even be one of the first 50 people to use my code and redeem a permanent Team LFF skin for my boy Scout. Happy flag hunting, my lovelies. Now, let's get back to talking about heavy. To help make sure you get the best possible heavy advice, I've enlisted the help of Thewhat, a high-level Highlander heavy main.
So, my name is Thewhat and I've been playing in RGL since 2020. I started playing in Invite since Season 18, and I do extensive map talks and demo reviews for my mentees, all of which are on my YouTube channel.
In short, he's the real deal, and the advice he's given me has shaped the way I play Heavy for the better, and now I can pass that same knowledge upon you too. With that said, buckle up, grab a glass of orange juice, and try not to reach through the screen because here we go! Here's a short guide to playing Heavy.
Here I come!
This is Heavy.
I'm at a payphone trying to go.
I'm sure you know the basics, right? He's slow, he's tanky, he loves eating burgers, he loves eating french fries, pizza, gummy worms, chicken nugget. This is all very common knowledge. With 300 health, Heavy has the highest base HP of any class, which increases to 450 with Overheal. At that high of a health value, the only attacks that can reliably take you down in one hit are a fully charged headshot or a backstab. However, as a trade-off, Heavy is also the class with the slowest base movement speed, which slows down even further while the minigun is revved. But Heavy's movement speed isn't quite as slow as you might think at first. The exact speed Heavy moves at is 230 hammer units per second, which, yes, is the slowest in the game. But when compared to the soldier's base movement speed of 240 hammer units per second, you can see that there's only a discrepancy of 10 hammer units between them. That means that while unrevved, Heavy moves at almost the same speed as Soldier. Obviously, Heavy lacks the insane movement of rocket jumping, but he's still mobile enough while unrevved to be able to dodge and maneuver around decently enough. Heavy also has a built-in 50% resistance to all damage-induced knockback. Well, except for sentry guns. Also except for air blast. Well, also all of these other things. But generally speaking, Heavy's knockback resistance means that once you're in an enemy's face, they'll have a hard time pushing you away. No one can resist Heavy's magnitude.
Heavy's biggest strength is his large health pool and overheal. It gives the Heavy the best chance at winning his fights, pushing and holding objectives, and can enable him to survive situations where he otherwise wouldn't. His biggest weakness is his lack of movement. He's forced to commit to plays and angles where other classes would have more of a chance to pick their fights, and this commitment makes him an easy target to an entire enemy team.
But enough boring stat lectures. This isn't community college. Let's discuss the star of the show in Heavy's kit, Sasha. I mean, look at her sleek belt, her voluptuous curves, her stout barrel, just waiting for the opportunity to be stuffed inside the opposing team's business end. God damn.
Hold my gun!
The minigun is a sustained damage weapon. Unlike a burst damage weapon like the shotgun that deals a single burst of damage with one input, the minigun deals a consistent stream of damage instead. With sustained fire, some of the highest DPS in the game, and no necessity to reload, Sasha is one of the strongest weapons in TF2, provided you have the skill and game sense to use it correctly. In order to master the minigun, you need to be proficient at tracking. Tracking is an aiming technique where you continuously keep your crosshair on your enemy to maximize your damage. Tracking is generally regarded among people as one of the easier methods of aiming in an FPS game, but that does not mean that it can't be mechanically demanding or easy to master. Sure, pissing in the toilet is perceived as easy, but have you ever tried pissing 10 feet straight in the air without having a single drop land on yourself? I didn't think so. Opponents that are within a short to medium distance away from yourself are usually pretty easy to track. However, the closer an enemy gets to you, the harder they are to track. That's because the distance you need to move your mouse to keep your crosshair situated on the enemy is drastically shorter, which can cause you to overshoot your target or even lose track of them altogether. This creates openings for scouts to meat shot you, spies to trick stab you, or allow you to get ambushed and turned into meat paste. Which begs the question, how can you personally get better at tracking to stop that from happening? Well, me and Took both agree on the answer.
To get better with aiming, really focus down on playing TF2 pubs, or if you want to use an aim trainer like Kovacs, that's also fine as well. Tracking is not that hard to do in TF2 compared to a lot of other games, and where most people should try to get better at is dealing with people very close to them, directly in their face, or people who are in the air, or people who are below you.
The simplest and easiest way to build up your muscle memory is just through experience. So if you're a new player who thinks your aim is subpar, just keep going and don't give up. And if you do feel like giving up, perhaps if I blow you a kiss, it will give you the hope you need to continue your journey. Mwah! Beyond just building up your aim skills, there's more you need to know about using the miniguns. One crucial aspect of all of Heavy's miniguns that people tend to forget is that they all require time to ramp up. From the moment your gun is revved, it starts with an accuracy penalty and a 50% damage penalty that gradually reduces until 1 second has passed. 50% reduced damage and accuracy is nothing to scoff at, and ignoring the existence of these penalties will cause you to form bad habits that can be hard to break. The penalties reset every time you unrev your gun, forcing another full second of rev time to get back to optimal damage and accuracy. Therefore, it's actually very unwise to constantly unrev and rev up your minigun, as you will be constantly inflicted with damage and accuracy penalties, which will make you perform significantly worse than if you just commit to your revs. When you play Heavy, your minigun is your wife. You gotta commit to it. But once you are past the initial accuracy penalty, you'll find that the miniguns are surprisingly adept at mid to even long-range combat. You'd be shocked at just how much damage you can rack up with the minigun at range. And things only get better with the Tomislav because of its accuracy buff. Just make sure you don't get too confident with long-range combat, otherwise... Yeah, we'll get there. It's also worth noting that the minigun's accuracy functions just like TF2's other bullet weapons. For weapons like the SMG, the revolvers, and the pistols, your first bullet will always fire directly on your crosshair, and only gets inaccurate with successive shots. The minigun, despite firing multiple bullets with a single click, retains this feature. Every time you tap the fire button, at least one bullet will land perfectly on your crosshair. That means you can rapidly press the fire button to constantly have at least one bullet of perfect accuracy. This technique comes in handy in a lot of scenarios. You can use it to pester engineers' buildings, chip damage enemy players from a distance, and with the help of a friendly Kritzkrieg medic, you can even become Fat Sniper. Fat Scout is a thing of the past, baby. I've shifted the paradigm. Another way to capitalize on the minigun's accuracy is through target priority. Despite the minigun's strong crowd control, at the end of the day, it is still a bullet weapon, and they're only capable of hurting individual players at a time. The key to target priority is to examine your surroundings and assess the current largest threat to your team and focus on them first.
Target priority on Heavy is a little bit interesting because you have to focus on objective, but you also have to focus on what opportunity your team gives you, where you play in relation to your team, just a couple of different things. So the first one is, what is the objective? Are you pushing cart? Are you holding cart? Are you pushing point? Are you holding a point? Are you focusing the people who are getting the most cart time? Are you focusing the people who are trying to prevent you from getting cart time? Are you close by your team? Are you playing adjacent to or far away from your team? And with that, it changes the target priority in a way where you have to, when you're playing with your team, look for people who are bombing over, check for spies. Those are the two most important ones before you can start playing the objective. And then once you are playing the objective, who is my demo shooting? Who are you guys focusing all together? While holding, it's pretty much the exact same thing. Most of it is just kind of dependent on positioning. I feel like I'm talking about that more than the actual targets themselves.
With a good sense of target priority, you can turn into an obese lawnmower flattening everything in your path. However, if your sense of target priority is off, you're gonna find yourself being overwhelmed before you can fully capitalize on your damage output. With that, I have covered the bare bones basics of Heavy and the minigun. Now, we can get to the fun part where I babble about Heavy gameplay strategy for far longer than any person should be capable of. As Heavy, your positioning and movement are the single most important skills to learn and master. A large factor in Heavy's difficulty curve is learning where you need to be and when. The absolute worst thing you can do as Heavy is place yourself in the wrong place at the wrong time. So how do you improve your positioning? Luckily, I've got a simple guide to help you figure things out. Also, please, just try to pay attention to the message of the video and don't get distracted by any of the other stuff.
So, you want to learn how to position yourself as heavy? Well, you're in luck, friend, as this simple guide will whip you into tip-top shape in no time at all. Uh-oh, looks like Heavy ate one too many burgers. Because Heavy's tummy is so big, he lacks the speed to dodge attacks, and his large hitbox makes it easy for enemies to hit their shots. A Heavy caught out in the open will almost always be rushed down and killed before they can capitalize on their minigun's strength. Natural cover offsets this weakness. Examples of natural cover include corners, crates, even the payload cart. Every time I leave the house for work, my wife's in full makeup. But every time I come home, it's all been wiped off. By using cover, Heavy is not only protected from headshots, but also from being ambushed and spammed from explosives. As a pop quiz, let's take a look at some examples and see if you can properly determine what's good versus bad positioning. This is an example of bad positioning. This is an example of good positioning. And this is an example of bad positioning. And this is... Fuck, sorry, I really can't do this today. I asked my wife what she was so mad about, and she said it's because I keep jumping on the bed. And I said, what's so wrong about jumping on the bed? I'm a grown man, I can do whatever I want. So what? I like pretending I'm one of the monkeys jumping on the bed. And she said, you never stop jumping on the bed. When I'm trying to have a calm moment to myself, you're jumping on the bed. When I'm trying to focus on my work, you're just jumping on the bed, yelling about being a monkey. So I yelled back at her, so what? I'm a grown adult. I can jump on the bed if I fucking please. And my wife says, plus it's so unsafe. What if you fall off the bed and hurt your head? What then? I'm gonna have to raise the kids all by myself because you fell off the bed and hurt your head. And after that, I just start jumping on the bed again. Am I the asshole? Anyways, with that, this guide has taught you all the basics of positioning as Heavy. I look forward to seeing you on the battlefield as an aspiring mercenary.
Okay, so, yeah, I hope that helped teach you the ropes. On top of playing around natural cover and walls, it's also imperative to play around your team. Heavy's strong defensive capabilities allow him to act as an anchor for his team to play around. He can hold down an area in the same way a sentry gun can, while also being infinitely more mobile. Imagine it this way. As Heavy, when you are positioned with the minigun, you hold an invisible line on the battlefield for your team, which is not only invaluable for allowing allies to approach the front line safely, but also for keeping enemies out of the back line.
There needs to be some sort of line that you create with your team when you're walking up with them. You want to walk with the line with your team, and your team then needs to walk with the line, pushing it forward, just taking space, but preventing people from crossing the line. The thing with the line is that you prevent people from walking onto your side of the map, and you do that by taking space. You do that by preventing them from getting space. But it's ultimately just a way for you to grasp where your team is playing in relation to where you're playing, and where you're playing in relation to your team, and how you can go about that.
Just existing passively is an active enough threat for the enemy team to generate value for yours. However, many Heavies can fall into the nasty habit of pushing during times it's better to hold, purely to chase damage numbers and frags. Despite how satisfying it can feel in the short term to chase kills and damage numbers, supporting your team will benefit you way more in the long run, even if moral support points don't show up on the scoreboard. Heavy also greatly benefits from having a height advantage on his enemies. Because of the uphill battle enemies need to fight to take you down, an enemy within your range will either likely die or be forced to retreat. Some of the greatest places you can position yourself for defensive holds are high areas out of view of long sniper sightlines. On the flip side, trying to pick fights from a lower position puts you at a massive disadvantage. It's just a simple fact that trying to fight enemies from a downward angle is substantially easier than fighting someone from an upward angle. For that reason, it's best to avoid fighting enemies that have a high ground advantage over you. Instead, you can push with your team to outnumber the opponents, or reposition and start the engagement from a different angle. Another crucial tip for positioning is head glitching. It's a technique every class in TF2 can utilize, but is by far the most beneficial for Heavy. It's pretty common knowledge that in Source games, bullets don't actually leave the barrel of your gun. You actually shoot them out of your eye holes. That means you can shoot enemies as long as you can see them, even if the barrel of your minigun is behind cover. For a class with as big of a hitbox as Heavy, this is a large help, because you can hide the majority of your body while still dishing out the same DPS. You essentially become a floating meatball that shoots bullets out of its mouth. Across the many many maps in TF2, seriously, there's way too many maps, there's a lot of helpful head glitch spots you can learn. And you can head glitch off of almost anything. Ramps, crates, even the payload cart itself. This is part of why Heavy can be so oppressive on payload offense, as the cart is the perfect height to hide behind and head glitch from. Remember, when head glitching, you need to maximize the area you can deal damage and minimize the area from which you can receive damage. But for as strong as head glitching can be under the correct circumstances, it can be easily countered and is not a one-size-fits-all solution to engagements. The very existence of Sniper is a hard counter to head glitching, because all you're realistically doing is exposing the only part of your body he even wants to shoot at, like a game of whack-a-mole. And if the enemies have a height advantage over you, head glitching will lose all of its potency, because due to the angle of their point of view, they'll be able to see your body.
There's not many situations where a head glitch is useful, but a lot of the use comes from the fact that it's the element of surprise that allows head glitches to do as much as they can. On Lakeside, for example, Heavy in comp, he holds in bathhouse or pool, and you can actually sit in the water and head glitch. And one of the things that can really help you in that case is just finding places where people walk in that people just aren't expecting you to be at. Like, again, on Lakeside, there's this other spot by the point where you can head glitch at, and it's more of like a true authentic head glitch, where you're not floating in water, you're just using the map terrain to give you an advantage, and it's passive, right? You have to expect people to walk into you, but damn does it work whenever people walk into you. But generally speaking, head glitches are still really good, body glitches are still really good, and people should find opportunities to use them.
Sure, it's one thing to play defensively and hold the line for your team, but what if you want to get the blood pumping? Sitting behind a box doesn't put hair on your chest. If you want to play like the aggressive alpha you are, there's a little trick that might just help. With every minigun, if you jump and rev at the same time, you can simultaneously keep your momentum in the air while also charging your gun, giving you a burst of forward momentum before the speed penalty of the minigun takes effect. This technique is called jump revving, and I hope you like it, because this is the only movement tech you get as Heavy. Jump revving is universally beloved by Heavy players for the small burst in mobility it gives for aggressive pushes, surprise ambushes, and just because it's so gosh darn diddly fun. Also, it sucks. Don't do it. Okay, let me sneak an asterisk in there before you click off the video. Jump revving may just be the biggest noob trap a Heavy player can fall into. Many people use it as a universal way of taking engagements, constantly jumping around corners and trying to catch players off guard. And sure, this approach can occasionally work, but it only effectively works on lower skill players. The more competent your enemy is, the more jump revving aggressively falls off in effectiveness. In fact, jump revving can do substantially more harm than good. Remember, the minigun when initially revved has a 50% damage and accuracy penalty that reduces over the course of a second of rev time. If you wistfully launch yourself headfirst into an engagement with a jump rev, your damage and accuracy penalties ensure that your enemy will likely be out damaging you. You should especially never jump rev around corners, not only because of the aforementioned penalties, but also for the simple fact that you don't know what's behind that corner and you can't account for it. This is the principle of Schrodinger's corner. Until you can see with your own eyes what's around it, you can't know what's behind it for sure. There could be a single helpless scout, there could be the entire enemy team waiting for you. There could even be unimaginable horrors far beyond our understanding of meaning. Once you fully understand how the jump rev mindset is a trap, you'll start to notice just how many enemy heavies don't realize it. I can't count how many times an enemy heavy blindly jump revs around a corner directly into my loving embrace. So here's my question to you. Why take the risk at all with jump revving when it's much safer to preemptively rev up, peek around the corner, and make a decision if it's worth pushing forward? Sure, peeking corners doesn't give you the adrenaline rush quite like jump revving does, and it doesn't add quite as much hair to your chest, but it's the overall safer and more practical choice. That's not to say jump revving is useless. Rather, I'm just pointing out that people tend to apply it in the wrong areas, which can lead to the formation of bad habits. Jump revving, just like any other vice, such as gambling, smoking, and Red 40, will get you killed if you let it get out of control. You really shouldn't jump rev proactively, instead do it preemptively.
Jump revving's only good at getting into positions quicker. It's terrible at trying to fight people directly. You just jump rev into a spot without peeking anyone, wait for people to walk into you while a second passes, and once that second is done, you do full damage, and then you can walk in. The only other cases where jump revving could be good is during a sack or when somebody's eating or somebody's distracted, maybe they taunt, but it's very, very bad at trying to do anything else. Like, if you jump rev into a spot where people are sitting, you're just dead. You have to react to them, they're more prepared than you, it's just terrible to do.
Another thing to remember is to not hug corners too tightly as you turn around them. Heavy is a large, in-charge, girl boss with a giant weapon. The barrel of the minigun is very elongated and its muzzle flash is massive, making it very noticeable from around corners. If you peek them too tightly, your enemy is gonna see you before you see them, which gives them the edge for reaction time. In a game like TF2, every moment matters, no matter how small. The few moments your gun barrel peeks around a corner is all it takes for an enemy to begin a retreat or plan an attack. So to avoid this, it's much better to wide peek. In doing so, it minimizes the amount of time your weapon barrel peeks around a corner before your head, which makes it harder for enemies to react, allowing for them to be turned into mincemeat much more easily. But for as strong as Heavy is, he can't win every fight. Sometimes the enemy team can yield the collective power of 1,000 feral hogs. That's an amount of power no man alone can hope to withstand. That's why knowing what fights aren't worth pursuing and when to get out is just as key to your own survival as knowing how to fight. At all times when playing Heavy, try to keep in mind how many enemies are near you at all times. It can be very easy to get outnumbered and rushed down by more enemies than you can keep up with, which will lead to you being 6 feet under. If there's too many enemies to reasonably put up a fight against, just get out. Unless you're defending something worth dying for, like an objective or a friendly medic, it is not worth it to stay in the engagement. So far, I've discussed Heavy with a very team-oriented play style, holding the line for your team, playing the objectives, so on and so forth. But that's not the only way to play Heavy. It's possible to play as a strong, independent girl boss Heavy who doesn't need his team. You can forego your typical anchor spots and defensive holds to instead roam around the map as a lone wolf. Ow! That was bad. Oh my god. Most people refer to this playstyle as Roamer Heavy. Instead of maintaining the invisible line for your team, a Roamer Heavy mostly plays solo, instead opting to play for picks and disrupt the flow of the enemy team. If you notice a free flank route or an exploitable hole in the enemy team's defense, it can be well worth it to execute the old flank and spank. There is quite possibly nothing more devastating to a team quite like a revved up Heavy sliding into your backline. In more organized competitive formats, playing as a Roamer Heavy is pretty impractical, but in the hectic nature of 12v12 pubs, coordination between teammates is hard to come by. The increased independence of pubs gives you the leniency you need to make bolder plays. Even someone as slow as Heavy can wiggle their way into places they wouldn't expect the Heavy to be. While roaming as Heavy, it's also important to understand the power of holding off angles. What's an off angle? If you kill an enemy and their first response is, "What the hell is a Heavy doing there?" chances are you're holding an off angle. The effectiveness of the element of surprise is something that can't be understated. You can score so many silly kills by just hiding yourself in goofy spots no one would check for a Heavy. So I've described all of the basics for movement and positioning you need to know to get started. And I even taught you how to get a bit quirky with it. But before we move on to the next segment, let me leave you off with a special bonus tip. You should never turn off shadows in-game. Listen, I know a lot of you want your game to look like a PS1 game to save 3 frames per second on your Lightning McQueen gaming computer, but there's actually a practical reason to keep shadows enabled beyond aesthetics. Players' shadows in Team Fortress are so incredibly buggy that you can see them being cast through walls, essentially giving you wall hacks, which can lead to many free kills and cheating accusations. This game is held together by duct tape and a dream! Despite every fiber of your body saying otherwise, the goal in TF2 isn't actually to score the most kills. The point of the game is to work as a team for the purpose of an objective, and you, Buster, are a part of that team. So on your journey to become a godlike Heavy main, you're going to need to learn how to stop being a selfish Sylvester and start being a cooperative Christopher. We can start your transformation by examining your most important relationship, Medic. Since the very beginning, Medic and Heavy have been inseparable. They're frequently shown on screen together, have matching cosmetics, and, you know.
Get behind me, Doctor! Jawohl! Charge me! Ja!
Medic and Heavy are definitively gaming's best power couple. Move over, Zelda and Link. True love is a man's game. Together, they're just as strong on the battlefield as their bond is between each other. An overhealed Heavy is one of the biggest threats in any match of TF2, and necessitates the enemy team be coordinated enough to take you out. A team that refuses to coordinate to take out an overhealed Heavy will get rolled if they don't get their act together. So, if you want to be a large threat to the enemy team, you're ideally gonna want some overheal. But that shouldn't be a problem. Medics tend to naturally gravitate towards Heavies. Something about his grandiose aura and intoxicating pheromones drives Medics up a wall. But here's the thing. If you really want to steal a Medic's attention, you're gonna need some style points. If you don't dress to impress, Medics are gonna pocket the Heavy that knows how to look max harder. That's just a fact of life. You need to look presentable. In this world, you need a strong jawline, hunter eyes, and a fit that screams out to the world, I don't make six figures at my job, but I pretend I do to look cool on the internet. You think I'm joking? I'm dead serious. Before you accuse me of being a jerk who punches down on new players in low value inventories, let's do a little thought exercise together. Look at this Heavy. Do you think he's good at the game? Sure, maybe he can defend the objective with his trusty brass beast. Maybe even get a positive KD ratio on a good day. Okay, now what do you think of this Heavy? Oh, what's that? You think he's gonna pub stomp? He's gonna rack up dominations, have a pocket Medic, and get called a sweaty tryhard by the entire enemy team? If you were a Medic, which Heavy would you pocket? Honest answers only. Oh, but I'm the asshole for pointing it out. I think I've made my point. Once you do have a Medic, it is vital to remember that their life is way more important than your own. In chess terms, imagine a Heavy is the team's rook, whereas the Medic is the queen. If your team's Medic dies, and the enemy team's Medic is alive and kicking, your team has lost the advantage state and is now operating at a significant disadvantage. For a class that's as defensively strong as Heavy, you need to be doing your best to protect your Medic. One of the simplest ways you can support your Med is tossing them a well-earned snack. When dropped, the sandwich acts as a medium health pack healing 50% of a player's base health amount. That's 75 health for Medic, which can make a world of difference for a Medic on their last legs. Beyond stuffing your Medic's tummy until it's plump and full, you need to be bodyguarding them as well. If your Medic is being attacked by a flanker, you need to stop that flanker at all costs. If you're making a push with your Medic and they take a lot of damage, you need to evacuate. Should the moment necessitate it, you even need to be willing to lay down your life if it means keeping your Medic alive. Sure, dying stinks, but by sacrificing yourself to save another's life, you're putting a lot of good karma back into the universe. In your average pub, if no one's protecting a Medic and they repeatedly die, they're gonna get bored and switch to another class. Sacrificing your life to save a friendly Medic is gonna show them that you have integrity and worth. Not only will the Medic see your good deed and not switch off Medic, but they'll also be way more likely to pocket you for showing a true hero's resolve. This dynamic can be flipped on its head as well. An enemy team's Medic is the most important pick of the whole match. Their life is worth more than yours. So, just as you would sacrifice your life to guarantee a friendly Medic's safety, you also need to be willing to sacrifice your life to guarantee an enemy Medic's demise. In competitive settings, this is oftenly referred to as sacking, short for sacrificing. While sacking is typically reserved to the more mobile classes like Soldier and Scout, Heavy can as well. Like I said before, the goal of TF2 isn't to farm kills or kill streaks, it's to win over the enemy team. Sacrificing yourself to take out the opposing team's Medic is a positive trade, and generates more value than chickening out and staying alive. So far, I've talked about the personal sacrifices you need to make for your Medic, but every healthy relationship is a two-way street, you scratch their back, and they'll scratch yours. So, what does your medic do for you? Well, besides overheal and a steady stream of healing, many of Medic's individual unlocks present their own unique benefits that you can capitalize on. By far the most beneficial unlock Medic has is the crossbow. This item single-handedly buffs Heavy by existing. Now, this isn't a short guide to playing Medic, it's a short guide to playing Heavy, so I'll try to keep my crossbow glazing brief.
Entering Glizzy Overdrive.
Medic's standard healing rate is so slow that healing an injured Heavy takes multiple seconds of precious time. You could squeeze in a quick power nap in the time it takes a Medic with no crossbow to heal you to full health. The time and resources a Medic is spending on healing Heavy is time spent not healing his other allies. Medic's heal rate is core to his class's balancing, but utilizing the crossbow, Medic can just politely decline this game design principle and heal a Heavy up to full health in a fraction of the time. Medic can also swap off his Medigun mid-combat, switch to the crossbow, and give his healing target a burst of healing mid-fight. This technique is called arrow tanking, and like most things involving the crossbow, it's disgustingly powerful. Thanks to Heavy's slow speed, he is extremely easy to consistently arrow tank. A medic will be able to essentially dual wield their medigun and crossbow to constantly give you large chunks of burst healing, even when you're actively fighting off a horde of enemies. Any foe that makes the mistake of trying to fight you while you're being arrow tanked by your medic will need to deal possibly hundreds of extra damage that they otherwise wouldn't have if your medic wasn't running the crossbow. Every time you get hit with a large chunk of damage, you're always one crossbow bolt away from shrugging it off immediately. This essentially means any enemy team trying to take you down will be forced to overwhelm you or pick off your medic to even stand a chance. Another strength of the crossbow is that it removes the otherwise hard-capped distance for healing medic is usually restricted to. The crossbow laughs off this design choice of medic so hard that he's actually better at healing at long ranges than he is at short ranges. Just 2 bolts at long range is all it takes for a Heavy to get to maximum health. So if you ever find yourself a long distance away from your medic and in need of heals, simply crouch and give your medic your best puppy eyes. In doing so, your medic will likely see you as something meek and helpless, like a Victorian chimney sweep, and they'll be forced to assist you. Keep in mind the crossbow is capable of all of this and so much more I don't have time to get into, and it's a side grade for the syringe gun. Let's talk mediguns. The Quick Fix provides the fastest healing out of all of Medic's mediguns, and as the class with the highest base HP amount, you're the largest benefactor of this stat. The Quick Fix's Uber is also unique in that it triples its standard healing rate. When used defensively, the Quick Fix is great for maintaining you and your team. However, when used offensively, the Quick Fix is without question the worst Uber charge in the game. With no invulnerability or crits, trying to push with the Quick Fix's Uber will result in you being chewed up and spit out like gum. Even the Quick Fix's boosted healing rate cannot compete with the amount of damage a Heavy pushing into the enemy team's defense will soak in. So I really only recommend running a Quick Fix in defensive positions. If your medic is running Quick Fix on offense and is using it to try and break through a hold, it's worth asking him to switch off to a different medigun. Just don't be a dick about it, okay? Pinky promise. Only good noodles watch the What Show. Alternatively, the Kritzkrieg is 100% pure offense. The Heavy already has some of the highest DPS in TF2, and the Kritzkrieg will triple it and remove damage falloff. The unmatched power of critical hits makes the Kritzkrieg a godsend for defending objectives and annihilating pushes. However, just like the Quick Fix, it's really hard to recommend using the Kritzkrieg for offensive pushes, for multiple reasons. The Kritzkrieg offers 0 defensive buffs, only straight offensive power. That means not just you, but also your medic are glass cannons for 8 seconds. If either you or your medic get picked off, you can say goodbye to all of your Uber. Secondly, when making offensive pushes, one of your highest priority targets to take out will be an enemy sentry nest. Heavy already deals less damage to sentry guns as is, but worse still is that sentry guns don't receive critical damage. So the Kritzkrieg does effectively nothing against enemy buildings. So if you try to push into one with crits active, you're gonna lose. especially if the engineer presses 2 on his keyboard. Next up is the stock Medigun, all reliable. Ubercharge is the single most powerful and important ability in TF2. It single-handedly shifts the tide of the game, and the status of your medic's Ubercharge dictates your team's advantage state. So Heavy should naturally be the strongest pair for an Uber, right? Like peanut butter and jelly, like a monkey and a banana, like a crisp $20 bill and a gas station clerk handing you a fresh pack of Newport cigarettes. Hell, even the Meet the Medic trailer shows this off. Completely invincible, pushing through a tidal wave of brain-dead soldier mains. But are Ubered Heavies as effective in-game? Well, sometimes. Well, what I'm gonna say is probably gonna sound insane. Probably even blasphemous, but I'm afraid it's the truth. Heavy really isn't that good with an Ubercharge. I really can't wait to see how many feathers I rustle with this video. Now, of course, that's not to say Heavy should never be Ubercharged or that an Ubered Heavy can't be effective. The mere privilege of being able to play Heavy for 8 glorious seconds without having to worry about headshots or backstabs is a blessing. But Heavy is a lot lower on the Uber priority totem pole than the community sentiment would lead you to believe. The first major problem is speed, believe it or not. Here's a fun game. Every time I mention Heavy speed being a weakness in this video, take a drag off of your Newport brand menthol cigarette. Every moment spent crawling forward with the minigun is burning precious seconds of Ubercharge, and in the time it takes for you to advance forward, other power classes like Soldier and Demoman can cover a lot more distance. Another problem is that the minigun can only focus one target at a time. Explosive classes like Demoman and Soldier can not only take out sentry nests quicker, but also use their splash damage to damage entire clusters of enemies at a time. Heavy can work in a pinch, but the explosive classes are far superior when it comes to pushing forward and breaking down defenses. But that's for offensive pushes. Where an Ubered Heavy can really shine is on defense. You don't need to worry about Heavy's slow movement speed when the enemies are pushing into you. With the stock Ubercharge, Heavy becomes an invincible bullet hose that can shut down a push with the wave of his finger. On maps that require a strong defensive hold, such as the final points of payload and control point maps, a well-timed Uber on Heavy can be a game-saving play. But for as strong as a defensive Uber can be on Heavy, he still has stiff competition. The explosive classes can still take priority over Heavy because of their superior splash damage and mobility. Even Pyro can be a significantly stronger Uber recipient for defensive plays. The simple truth is that no matter which way you approach it, Heavy is typically not the strongest Uber candidate in any given match. Sure, a good Heavy is a much better Uber candidate than a stinky and smelly demo will be, but under optimal circumstances, it's usually for the best to leave Ubercharge to the more capable classes. Let me phrase it this way. If you love a pocket medic, set them free to Uber a demo man. If they come back to you after their Uber runs dry, then you know their love is true. However, there's one Medigun that's been noticeably absent from the video up until now, and I saved it for last because it completely invalidates literally everything I've said until now.
Yeah. What the fuck?
The back, man! Oh my god! Oh, it's so dirty.
Why, bro?
I'm filthy. Everyone knows the vaccinator is overpowered. I know it. You know it. Your mom knows it. Balthazar, the Lord of Bones, knows it. In fact, he probably invented it. Screw you, Balthazar, the Lord of Bones. I'm not breaking new ground here. Using the vaccinator on Heavy is about the closest experience you can get to playing creative mode in TF2. Heavy's large health pool, in tandem with the slower overheal build of the vaccinator, means that farming Ubercharge with the vaccinator is ludicrously fast. With a total of 4 bubbles that grant a 75 damage resistance to almost every type of damage in the game, you become basically invincible. You can pop those bubbles defensively, offensively. For shits and giggles, it really doesn't matter. If you feel like playing Heavy with a pair of training wheels, power to you. But honestly, every time I'm getting pocketed by a medic using the vaccinator, I feel like a dickhead, so I'm kind of honor bound to condemn it. Shame on you. But enough talk about Medic. He's not the only member of your team. there's guaranteed to be a whole bunch of other classes in any given match, and they're all gonna be looking towards you for support. Being the kind, loving bear you are, you need to do your best to help them out as well. A class that Heavy strongly synergizes with is Engineer. His supportive buildings are a massive boon for yourself. Imagine trying to play Heavy in a world where teleporters don't exist. Just think of the ungodly amount of time you'd have to spend running to the front lines, alone with nothing but your thoughts to keep you company. No teleporters, huh? Should've switched to Pyro. You know, I should get into cryptocurrency. Do you think the first guy to milk a cow knew what he was doing, or did he just squeeze animal nipples for fun? Level 3 teleporters are especially crucial for carrying your team to the front lines. By merely existing, a well-placed level 3 teleporter will win an entire game. Maintaining teleporters should be a team-wide responsibility, not just for the engineers. When exiting the spawn room, if your engineer's teleporter isn't at level 3 yet, is damaged, or is being sapped, switch to Engineer, upgrade the tele to level 3, then switch back to Heavy. It's only a minor inconvenience to yourself that costs a couple seconds of your time, but the value that teleporter will bring to your team is well worth the time investment. Not to mention, it will make friendly engineers fall in love with you. Not only is Heavy the greatest benefactor of teleporters, but dispensers as well. When placed in a good position, Heavy can stand next to a dispenser and defend it with a steady stream of ammo and health regeneration to constantly top himself off with. Positioning yourself near a dispenser also makes it safer for your teammates to use. The ammo regeneration of the dispenser allows you to shoot indefinitely to both fend off enemies as well as spy check. I'll elaborate more on this later, but Heavy is the second best class for spy checking in the game, and dispensers boost Heavy's ability to do so tenfold. Pyro is often the class associated with protecting an engineer's buildings, and for good reason. But Heavy's ability to defend friendly buildings often goes understated. Both Heavy and Engineer boost each other's strengths and diminish each other's weaknesses, in ways most don't even consider. If Medic is Heavy's main squeeze, then Del Conager is his side piece. Heavy, you dastardly dog. Moving on to the other classes, Soldier by himself doesn't really synergize with Heavy that much, but when you factor in his unlocks, he has the potential to massively boost a Heavy's power. The most beneficial of said unlocks is undoubtedly the Whip. You probably know how it works. Slap an ally, give him a speed boost. However, the speed boost Heavy receives is disproportionately larger than most of the other classes. He is tied with Soldier for a massive 40% speed boost under the Whip's effects. And considering Soldier and Heavy's base movement speeds are already so close, that means Soldier can run side by side with Heavy, whipping him to the front lines and slashing the amount of time it takes for him to roll out. The Whip can even be paired with the gloves of running urgently to speed Heavy up to Mach 5. Heavy is slow my ass, you're just not doing it right.
I'm so fast, you couldn't even comprehend how fast I am.
Soldier also has access to the banner items in his secondary slot, and they all benefit Heavy to varying degrees. However, the battalion's backup is insane. Sure, it has the least flashy effect of all the banners, but it is the strongest, if you ask me. This item is good. Like really good when paired with the Heavy. Like, almost as good as a smooth drag of a Newport cigarette. Almost. Under the effects of the 35% damage reduction, Heavy's effective health increases to 405, over 600 if Heavy is overhealed. This is a message to all Soldier mains watching this video. If your team is having a hard time pushing, for the love of goodness, equip the battalion's backup, charge it up, and push in with the friendly Heavy. The difference will be immediately noticeable, I swear. Now, I don't have all day, and you presumably don't, so allow me to rattle off some other class synergies lightning quick. Heavy can help friendly spies by serving as a big distraction. Heavy's spongy health pool means he takes a significant time investment to take down, and the time an enemy is spending trying to gun you down is time spent not looking at their back. So Heavy just existing and doing Heavy things gives friendly spies openings for stabs. Pyro's fire gives the Hulong heater a massive damage boost. Scout's Mad Milk can keep Heavy's health sustained during a fight. You can bait enemies into sticky traps for your demo man. I could keep going, but I think you get the idea. Teammates are good. Love and cherish them with all of your heart, and good things will happen to you. So now that we've discussed how every class in the game is special and can help you, let's talk about how you can mercilessly kill them all. You can basically sum up every matchup Heavy has with the phrase, if you're revved up and the enemy walks into you, you win. But that's a bit reductive. Each of the mercs you can encounter on the battlefield have their own intricacies and tricks up their sleeve to get the upper hand on you. So knowing what to look out for and how to overcome it will be a large help in increasing your survivability. So I've made a section for each of the 9 classes. Of all of the matchups Heavy has, Scout is the one that places the most pressure on your mechanical skill. Scout has the easiest time getting right up in your face and maneuvering around you. So above all else, in order to defeat a good Scout, your tracking needs to be up to snuff. I just use the Natasha, I guess. With enough practice and experience, you can get very good at shutting down scouts. But ideally, you should never be in that position to begin with. Therefore, your best bet for dealing with scouts is to keep them at bay within your ideal range, which is short to medium. For our very first special guest to talk about Scout, I've invited Brickiest Brick. Everyone give him a nice, warm Thewhat Show welcome.
Hey guys, renowned Scout main Brickiest Brick here. So the Scout versus Heavy matchup is quite an interesting one. You might be fooled by what you saw in Meet the Scout, where the Heavy was getting his ass kicked by the Scout, but unfortunately, that's not how every matchup ends up going. If his gun is revved up and you're right in front of him, he can kill you in like less than a second, which is why positioning is very important here. So Scout's a flank class, right? He flanks. So obviously getting the flank on the Heavy is the play here. If you catch him with his pants down, his gun isn't revved up, you can just meat shot him 3 times, 4 times, he's done. Now that is the ideal situation, but you're never gonna be in an ideal situation. So chances are he's got a medic with him, fully overhealed, and he's surrounded by teammates. In this case, if you can take the medic out very quickly and then run away to reload your gun, that would be ideal. Then you can come back and fight the Heavy solo. I should note you should be jumping around the Heavy at all times. You should be literally running circles around him and jumping in the air like a madman. Be prepared to do a lot of circle strafing when you fight Heavy, especially when you're attacking him while he already has his gun revved up, because that dude is gonna turn around and shoot you in the face with $400,000 worth of ammunition all at once if you don't move the hell out of the way. Well, there you have it. I hope you found this helpful, you aspiring Scout player. Now I'm gonna go do something else.
In a Soldier vs Heavy matchup, the Soldier almost always has the upper hand, but there are a few things that you should be cautious of when picking a fight, because things can go very, very wrong. In a simple one-on-one setting, the Soldier should always win the fight if they are able to play around the high ground or some other map geometry to avoid Heavy's bullets between rockets. The simplest way to do this is corner peeking, as the Heavy will not be able to hit enough shots to keep up with the Soldier's burst damage. But if you get caught out in a spot where you can't take cover between shots, remember the following: rocket jump quick, cause you are fucked. Heavy's biggest downside is his lack of movement options, so the most annoying thing in my opinion is the Natasha, because it brings you down to his level. The real problem though is if the Heavy's being pocketed. In this case, your best bet is usually to avoid 1v1s entirely. And finally, if you're like me and you just want to avoid the Heavy and let him be your team's problem instead, just use the gunboats. All you gotta do is jump over his head and bomb the rest of his team. What's he gonna do, chase after you?
On top of what C Ravioli, my epic bacon friend, said, I'd like to add some notes on fighting Soldier from the Heavy's perspective. Sometimes, death isn't even the biggest threat about taking damage from a Soldier, as Heavies happen to be great damage fodder for farming banners. So if you see a Soldier running a banner shooting at you, reposition to avoid taking damage from him. If you don't, you are an active detriment to the safety of your team, as the Soldier will be able to pop a banner and push into you guys. As C stated, Soldier has an easy time escaping from Heavy's range via rocket jumping. There's not much you can do to stop a Soldier from just hopping away from you, but something Heavy is great at is punishing soldiers trying to rocket jump into you. Any cocky soldier trying to bomb teammates within your vicinity will quickly have their efforts, and likely their egos as well, crushed in an instant. Soldiers especially like bombing in on medics, so being able to bodyguard your med from soldier bombs is a huge service to your team. So play cautious, don't die to corner peeking, stay revved to shut down bomb attempts, and you should be able to handle Soldier well enough.
weapons leave him pretty much helpless against any competent heavy. The stock flamethrower is piss weak, but it's harder to notice than other wet towel weapons because it doesn't deal burst damage. You cannot truly appreciate just how weak the flamethrower is until you try WM1ing against a heavy. Even in the absolute perfect scenario, catching a lone unwrapped heavy off guard, the flamethrower's still gonna lose unless that heavy's playing with tilt controls. However, heavy mains hate pyros that completely flip the matchup with this one weird trick, the Dragon's Fury. With this one unlock, you can corner peek against heavies like a soldier, or get in the heavy's face and mow them down like a scout. Sure, your range is still limited, but the Dragon's Fury can hit noticeably further than the flamethrowers, and any heavy past that can still get harassed by the flare guns. Also, heavy is by far the easiest class to pull off a flog cancel against. Granted, this is an extremely rare tech to see out in the wild. I only mention it because Thewhat has told me he's recently come to understand the high IQ required to use the flog after watching a certain video on it. Okay, and then put a screenshot of my video on the screen there. Cut this part out. Obviously, it'd be really embarrassing if you left it.
Yeah, get your bag, Lister. Anyways, there's other unlocks in Pyro's arsenal that Pyro can utilize to fight heavy that I think are worth discussion. The Scorch Shot is a weapon that's far from lethal by itself, but it's a great anti-heavy tool. It excels at non-stop bullying. I'm talking wet willies. I'm talking swirlies. I'm talking, oh my god, Atomic Wedgie? Youch! A Pyro spamming the Scorch Shot can constantly knock you backwards from any range, which can shunt your forward momentum, making it extremely hard to push forward or capture objectives. Another risky method Pyros can use to shred heavies is with the Degreaser and Panic Attack combo. The faster deploy speed of both the Degreaser and Panic Attack makes for a lethal combination. The Panic Attack's extra pellets also give it a small boost in damage it needs to be able to kill a heavy in only 3 shots. A good Pyro, like me, can use this combo to ambush you and melt you down with a series of flame puffs and shotgun blasts that will both overwhelm the player and put out enough damage fast enough to stand a chance against Heavy's DPS. And the last thing to look out for are Pyros trying to deny an Uber charge with Air Blast. While Ubered, if you see a Pyro rushing towards you, they are essential to take out. Otherwise, you will be Air Blasted into the Stone Age and lose all Uber value you could have otherwise achieved. With that said though, let's move on to a class Heavy has a much harder time dealing with.
This might be a long one. Demoman consists of 3 main playstyles, and even among those, it can still vary depending on the weapons used. When using grenades and sticky bombs, Demoman thrives when shooting the Heavy around corners or while abusing cover. Heavy can't fight back against this very easily since he needs a direct line of sight to deal damage. Demo's pipes also hurt quite a bit. Not quite enough to kill an overhealed Heavy from a full clip, but it's still enough to force you to back off and eat lunch. You'll often win against Demomen when they accidentally overextend, exposing themselves too much. Not like that.
It's also worth noting that the loose cannon, should an enemy Demoman have it equipped, can be obnoxious to fight against his Heavy. It's also fantastic at denying Uber pushes. But that's Demoman. Demo Knight, on the other hand, is not even a fair fight. Do you want to know what punching a baby feels like? Well, you shouldn't. That's seriously fucked up. Shame on you. But if you did want to know what punching a baby feels like, you can probably get pretty close to the feeling by 1v1ing a Demo Knight as Heavy.
Hybrid Demo Knights are pretty similar to fight against, they just have less firepower and might move around the map a bit more. Most of them will just spam pipes at you. Charging at a Heavy with the Tide Turner tends to be a pretty bad idea since it does so little damage, it's basically a free win for the Putis. You might find the occasional guy using the Splendid Screen with a grenade launcher, and in that case they can do a lot of damage, but then they're stuck charging in a straight line, which is pretty vulnerable for them. Where things really differ is when they use the boots, playing full Demo Knight with melee only. Many people presume that Heavy absolutely dunks on full Demo Knight here, and while that might sometimes be the case, it does depend. Heavy wins in a direct 1v1 with no distractions. If he can see the Demo Knight coming and he has good tracking, he should be able to win every time. If the Heavy was at full health during the encounter, he can also tank the shield bash and crit just barely, which gives him enough time to finish the job. But TF2 isn't MGE. It isn't always that simple. The Demonite has teammates, and Heavy can only shoot one player at a time, thus there is opportunity for you to get distracted. You know what, I'll just play a clip from the Sixes match I had in Poland and you'll see exactly what I mean. This is a bit exaggerated, most pub servers really aren't this coordinated, but you do get the point. There just isn't enough time to respond to this many threats lunging at you at once. In a multi-pronged ambush, even if the Heavy kills the Demonite, he still gets cleaned up by the other players anyway. Heavy wins in a fair fight, but a full Demonite's job is to capitalize on the unfair ones. Try to keep the Demonite in your head at all times, even if you're shooting a random soldier. At some point, you might have to flick towards a swordsman.
Or you could just, like, equip the Natasha, let's be real here. Heavy duels are infamous for being pretty simple. Comically so, as they almost always boil down to which Heavy sees the other first. I mean, just look at this clip of a Heavy MGE duel.
Good round, good round, good round.
Jesus Christ.
Good round, good round, good round. Oh, good round. Oh, you already lost. I hit you 2 times. It's over.
Get the first shot out, like all the time. If you can, try to get the first shot out, try to deal as much damage to him before the fight as possible, and again, just like a demo, he's going to be walking into you as much as you are to him. You guys are going to be playing the same objective, you guys have the same exact goals. So, how do you win that fight? One thing I've neglected to talk about with these corners, or with any sort of push, or any sort of peek to begin with, shooting before you even see them. Now, this seems weird, like why would I waste ammo unnecessarily? And it's not necessarily a good thing to lose ammo before that fight and make yourself known, but if you are taking that corner or taking an angle, or you're just trying to fight somebody and you know they're in a certain spot, shooting your gun is going to prevent any sort of human error from taking place, because we have reaction times. If we're not prepared for something, we have to use our reaction times to be dealing with it, right? We have to deal with it. So if you take reaction times out of play, if you shoot before you peek him and know where he is, and then move your mouse to where you're shooting at, you are going to consistently get the first shot out. Just look out for opportunities where you can be aggressive, and look out for opportunities where you need to play back. He can capitalize a lot off of the space that you do not take. You want to have equal, if not better, space to the objective than that Heavy does. If he's playing back, you play aggressive, help your team out, and you ignore the fight with that Heavy. If he takes the fight into you and you guys win that objective, it doesn't matter if you die, you guys win that objective and win the cap. When it comes to this fight, just play better fundamental Heavy. Use head glitches, use body glitches, do whatever you can to get that first shot out. If they give an inch, you take a mile.
Heavy versus Engineer. Okay, so when it comes to the Heavy, the Engineer has to respect him. He might not have like the sheer amount of total obliteration in his kit that Soldier or Demo Man has, but the one thing that he does have up his sleeve, he doesn't have sleeves, but you know what I mean. The one thing he does have up his sleeves most of the time is that he's probably going to have a medic right behind him, and if he's got a medic, probably going to get Ubered, and Uber is like the worst thing possible for an engineer to be approaching his buildings. On certain parts of certain maps, like Upward Last, for example, Ubered Heavy is less of a threat, but if the terrain allows for it, like for example on the roof overlooking Badwater's second point, Heavy very often rivals Demo Man for an Ubered target in a full-on offensive against an Engie nest, simply because he does not need to stop firing. At least with Demo Man, he needs to reload a lot, and you might be able to dodge some pipes, or you could maybe blast some stickies away with the Wrangler, but against an Ubered Heavy, it's pretty hard to outlast that when the circumstances are ideal. However, in unideal circumstances for the Heavy, so like if he doesn't have a medic up his butt, or if he's caught unawares, and you're playing more of like an aggressive battle style Engie kind of thing, Heavy is actually pretty fun to fight as Engineer in my opinion. A lot of Engie's unlocks can shred a Heavy in a one-on-one fight. Let's go down the list. Panic Attack, 3 shots, a non-overhealed Putis at close range, when any other shotgun would require 4 shots, and that 4th shot can mean a lot because by the time that you're about to get it off, the Heavy is probably fully revved by now and shooting you. So yeah, the Panic Attack, really nice for Heavy break points. The Frontier Justice can drop a Heavy in 2 crits if most of the pellets hit. Widowmaker, pretty solid option because he's a big slow target. He's a little easier to hit, so you don't have to worry about reloading, and if you really want to get silly with it, Heavy is one of the easiest classes to short circuit jump on top of and stand on their head. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to the triple gunslinger punch. Heavy is a prime target for that combo. Can you call it a combo if it combos into itself? I don't know. Fighting game players can argue about that one in the comments.
Also, if an engineer ever pulls out the Wrangler while you're shooting his sentry, you may as well take your own, turn it around 180 degrees, bend over, and your own until... Is the medic by himself? Okay, you win. Actually, I don't want to talk about Sniper. Let's go back to Medic. Okay, so obviously your matchup against Heavy isn't going to be determined by the Medic's ability to defeat you in combat, unless they're an absolute god with the needle guns. Huh. Like me, sigh. Instead, your matchup against Medic is going to be determined by who they're with and what Medigun they're using. A Medic pocketing a power class will most likely defeat a Heavy by himself, so it helps to push into an enemy pocket when you have team support. That way, the fight is on much more even ground. However, you should especially beware of a Medic pocketing a Demo Man. These two together are scarier than Jeff the Killer and Slender Man combined. And that should mean something, because Jeff the Killer is freaking terrifying. But what about the Mediguns? How do you counter Ubercharge as Heavy? When an enemy medic activates a stock Ubercharge, that's your cue to skedaddle on out of there. When I see an enemy Ubercharge, what I like to do is keep tabs on how long the Uber has been active for, deduce how long the Uber has left, and position myself ahead of them in the direction they're pushing. That way, by the time the pocket rounds the corner, their Uber will have worn off and I will be fully revved up, allowing for easy cleanup kills. For crits, the answer is much the same. Shiny Medic bad. You see Shiny Medic, you run away. But do your best to play with even more caution against the Kritzkrieg, as it is amazing at countering Heavy. A Kritzkrieg pop on a soldier or a Demo Man is a guaranteed death for you if you get caught out by it. If I know the enemy med is running crits, I tend to play much more passively and not get too aggressive. All it takes is for one crits pop to send me right back to the respawn room. As far as the Vaccinator goes, oh boy, you're not gonna like what I have to say, and truth be told, I don't even want to say it either. But what you need to do is take them and lickety split your own until you... Heavy legitimately does nothing against the Vaccinator. The true counterplay is to just switch classes, let it be someone else's problem, or abuse the overpowered look for a new match button.
My main spinner. One shot equals one kill. When it comes to discussing full-on counters for the Heavy, you gotta talk about what he likes and doesn't like.
Heavy love burger, Heavy love ice cream, Heavy love gummy bear.
When playing as the Heavy, the two main things you want to be is up close and personal, and to be against a class that you can reliably do more damage than. You're not really able to evade any source of damage when revved up, so you would like to be able to choose your battles, out DPS your opponent, unalive them as soon as possible, and then run back for more health. So out of the two classes I can insta-kill in the game, minus demos on Dust Bowl of course, the Sniper is the hardest one for the Heavy to counter, because unlike the Spy where you can just schizo check every 5 seconds to pretty much nullify his core strength, Sniper's core strength is not engaging. Instead of being insanely up close, Sniper likes to be all the way over there. And with that, Sniper's favorite target is one that's standing still, and his second favorite is one that's really slow. So this encapsulates what makes him so frustrating to fight against. Sniper can one-shot you even when fully overhealed from any range at any time. His playstyle is completely antithetical to the Heavies.
But I think my epic bacon friend, the What Show, will have something to say about that.
Oh my fucking god.
Wow. Thanks, Zenith, my epic friend. To counter Sniper, do your best to see him for as little as humanly possible. Stay out of his sight line at all costs. Try to locate or intuit where enemy snipers are located, and never peek into an angle where one can spot you or your precious head. But what do you do in the instances where the entire dang map is the sight line? Well, you take your... who cares, this joke is already overplayed. If a sniper is really giving you trouble, the greatest item Heavy has in his arsenal for dealing with Sniper is the Fists of Steel. If it is absolutely imperative for you to cross a sniper's sight line, take out the Fist of Steel, cross as quickly as you can, and wiggle your mouse around like you're a worm who got transformed into a human and just found out what hands do. The more unpredictable your movement is, the more likely your odds are that the sniper misses their shot, allowing you to cross safely. Other than what I've already stated, the only thing left for dealing with snipers is grabbing your religious text of choice, holding it close to your chest, and praying that they miss. But whatever you do not use the ancient bone scroll to pray to Balthazar, the Lord of Bones. Let's just say, he might steal your bones.
Hello, my name is Raw, and I have over 1,000 hours in Spy, so it's safe to say that I've faced quite a few heavies. The Spy versus Heavy matchup can either be the absolute freest thing in the world for the Spy, or the biggest nightmare ever. Thankfully, most heavies in pubs aren't really the greatest, and the idea of team support doesn't really exist. So in casual, usually heavies are a free stab whenever they're distracted. And believe me, pub heavies will get distracted by literally anything. However, with the heavies that are a bit more aware, and lately heavies have been getting a bit more aware, when played right, heavy isn't weak at all to Spy. In fact, I'd say he's up there with Pyro and Engineer as being one of the best Spy checkers. It really comes down to the fact that you shouldn't be playing heavy like hyper aggressively. Any class that requires aggression or being overextended into the team will always be a free pick for the Spy. The minigun is honestly better at spy checking than a flamethrower, at least for most situations that matter for the Spy. These situations tend to be when the Spy is trying to get to the back lines or crossing the battlefield. A flamethrower can catch out plenty of bad spies, especially ones that walk way too close to the enemy team, but a minigun can catch out a lot of good spies, ones that walk around in wide berths to avoid the team. The fact that it can reveal spies at any range, and it's also easily spammable, makes the map a nightmare to travel as the Spy. But if you're ever in the situation where you can't really run away or you can't really take a gunfight by corner peeking the heavy, you're gonna have to trick stab him. There's a lot of nuance and depth when it comes to trying to trick stab a heavy, but generally you want to close distance as efficiently as possible. The closer you are to a heavy, the harder it is for him to track you. Additionally, if you're ever in the situation where you could pull off a fast jump stab on a heavy, that's also really effective and honestly a lot safer than going for a Matador. Because against a revved heavy, he's gonna be too slow to back away from your stair stab, which is usually the best way to counter it. If you're close enough and you have a height advantage on the heavy, you can pretty much guarantee that you can get over his head. And it's pretty hard for him to counter that. And that's all the tips I have for the Spy versus Heavy matchup. If this video makes my pubs have 10 card heavies that actually know how to spy check, the What Show, I am going to kill you.
And that just about covers the basics of fighting every class. Let's move on to the next topic and... What? Balthazar the Bone Lord? Damn you, I never should have summoned you! What? At this point, I've talked about all the basics. How to position, how to support your team, and how to decimate the enemy's team. All in all, I've touched on all of my general heavy tips and tricks. Oh, wait! I've got doo-doo brains! I haven't even so much as touched on Man vs. Machine. All my fans are gonna make fun of me and my doo-doo brains, and say I have a smelly butt. Oh, stupid, stupid, stupid. Just kidding, I got Wheezy to talk about it.
So you want to learn how to play heavy in Man vs. Machine, huh? Well, if you're above the age of 5 and have ever worked a garage door opener, you have all the skill sets required to be an effective heavy. All the things you have to account for on the PvP side, getting backstabbed, getting headshot, players running out of your line of sight, none of that happens in Man vs. Machine. The game plan is simple. Hold W and shoot. Putting yourself right in the robot's face might sound risky, but it's quite the opposite. As the old saying goes, the best defense is a good offense. By maximizing your total damage output as fast as possible, you quickly cut off the funnel of projectiles ready to clock you in the mouth. 2 points of health on kill alone will consistently be enough to keep you alive at the front lines. You can tank all the damage in the world, but still snowball back up to full in no time. After that, buying a good balance of minigun firing speed and resistances will let you quickly neutralize any bots throwing damage in your direction. And even if you do take damage, you'll shrug it off no problem. It's also worth buying a crit canteen or two. If you're worried about losing an encounter but don't have enough time to unrev and run away, it'll give you a decent shot at winning the DPS race. You also got things like tank busting with the bear claws or body blocking giants to prevent them from passing, but now we're graduating from garage door opener to Super Nintendo controller, and I don't think the What Show's ready for the big leagues yet. We'll call it here for now.
Okay, now I've really bestowed all of my general knowledge for playing heavy onto you. I hope you've been able to learn a lot about how to play the class effectively. And the good news is this is far from the end. That's right, I am not done yapping about heavy. I have so much more yap juice in the tank you wouldn't believe it. So soon, I will be back with a second part focused entirely on Heavy's unlocks. Every minigun, every lunchbox item, every shotgun, and yes, every melee weapon. So stay tuned. But in the meantime, hit up the battlefield as Heavy. And remember, have fun, get good, and don't be afraid to play Heavy your way.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey! Ah! Ah! Hey! All of you are dead!
Pretty please remember to check out Last Flag. It's on a 20% sale right now on Steam, and you can also be one of the first 50 players to redeem the Team LFF skin for one of the contestants using my code.